Victoria Hale threw the car keys straight at Marcus Thompson's chest. They hit him hard, bounced off, clattered on the hot pavement. "Race me," she said. "If that pile of rust beats my Ferrari, you can have my company." A 35-year-old black janitor, a single father working double shifts to feed his little girl, standing in front of a billionaire CEO who wanted to humiliate him for sport. Every phone in the parking lot pointed at his face. Marcus bent down, picked up the keys slowly, looked her dead in the eyes, and said one word that made her smile disappear. What happened next? Nobody satisfying saw. Satisfying coming. Comment the city you're watching from so I can see how far this story has traveled. The keys hit Marcus Thompson square in the chest before he even saw them coming. He felt the sharp metal dig into his sternum. Then the weight dropped. The keys bounced once on the concrete and settled near his worn work boots. Victoria Hale stood 15 feet away, her red-soled heels planted wide, her arms crossed over a blazer that cost more than Marcus made in 3 months. "Pick them up," she said. Marcus didn't move. His hands stayed at his sides. His breathing stayed even. Behind Victoria, 3 men in expensive suits watched with the detached curiosity of people who'd seen her do this before. Investors, probably. The kind of men who laughed at whatever she laughed at. "I said, pick them up." "I heard you the first time, ma'am." Victoria's left eye twitched, just barely. Most people wouldn't have caught it. But Marcus had spent 15 years reading people who didn't want to be read. Bosses, landlords, bill collectors, doctors delivering bad news. He knew what that twitch meant. She wasn't used to being answered back. "Do you know who I am?" she asked. "Yes, ma'am. You're Ms. Hale, CEO. And do you know who you are?" Marcus felt the heat of the afternoon sun pressing on his shoulders, felt the sweat gathering at the back of his neck, felt the weight of every employee watching from the windows, from the sidewalk, from behind parked cars. "I'm Marcus Thompson," he said. "I work maintenance here. Night shift, mostly." "You work maintenance," Victoria laughed. It wasn't a real laugh. It was the kind of sound people make when they want others to laugh with them. "And yet somehow your truck is parked in my spot." Marcus glanced at his father's old pickup. The 1967 Chevy sat where he'd left it an hour ago, its faded blue paint catching the afternoon light. He'd parked there because every other space in the lot had been full. Simple as that. "Didn't see your name on it," Marcus said. One of the investors coughed. Another shifted his weight. Victoria's smile didn't waver, but something behind her eyes went cold. "Didn't see my name on it," she repeated. "That's cute. That's really cute." She turned to her investors. "You hear that, gentlemen? The janitor has jokes." Nobody laughed this time. Victoria walked closer. Her heels clicked against the pavement with each step. She stopped 3 feet from Marcus, close enough that he could smell her perfume. Something expensive. Something sharp. "Let me explain something to you," she said. "This parking lot belongs to my company. This building belongs to my company. Every desk, every computer, every mop and bucket you push around at night, mine. And that spot right there," she pointed without looking, "that's been my spot for 11 years. Every employee knows it. Every client knows it. Every person who walks through those doors knows it." "I apologize for the confusion, ma'am. I'll move the truck." "Oh, you'll move it," Victoria smiled again. "But first, I want to understand something. I want to understand what kind of man parks a piece of junk like that next to a $400,000 Ferrari and doesn't think twice about it." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. He forced himself to relax. "It's just a parking spot." "It's not just a parking spot. It's about respect. It's about knowing your place." Victoria's voice carried across the lot now. She wanted everyone to hear. Look at your truck. Look at it. Rust on the fenders, cracks in the windshield. That thing belongs in a scrapyard, not next to my car. That truck belonged to my father. I don't care if it belonged to Jesus Christ himself. It's an embarrassment. You're an embarrassment. The words hung in the air. Marcus felt something shift inside his chest. Not anger. He'd learned to bury anger a long time ago. It was something older, something that had been sleeping for years. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "I'm going to move my truck now, and then I'm going to finish my shift. And tomorrow, I'll park somewhere else. That's the end of it." "No," Victoria held up one finger. "That's not the end of it. You don't get to walk away like nothing happened. You embarrassed me in front of my guests. You made me look foolish. And now you're going to make it right." "How exactly do you want me to do that?" Victoria's smile spread wider. She turned to the growing crowd. "Everyone, gather around. I want witnesses for this." Employees streamed out of the building. They came from the lobby, from the cafeteria, from the upper floors. Within 2 minutes, nearly 100 people surrounded the parking lot, phones already recording. Marcus watched them come. He recognized some faces. The security guard who always nodded at him. The receptionist who sometimes saved him a donut for morning meetings. The young IT guy who'd helped him set up his phone last month. None of them stepped forward. None of them said a word. Victoria waited until the crowd settled. Then she pointed at Marcus's truck. "This man thinks his junk belongs next to my Ferrari, so I'm going to give him a chance to prove it." She paused for effect. "We're going to race. Right here, right now. His truck against my car. Down the access road, around the warehouse, back to this spot." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "And here's what makes it interesting." Victoria's voice rose. "If his rust bucket crosses the finish line first, I'll sign over my company to him. Every share, every asset, everything." Someone gasped. "But when I win, and I will win, he's going to get on his knees in front of everyone here and apologize for disrespecting me. And then he's going to quit. Walk away, never come back." Marcus stared at her. "You can't be serious." "Do I look like I'm joking?" "That's a billion-dollar company." "I'm aware of what my company is worth." Victoria stepped closer. "What's your truck worth? $300? Maybe $4? You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Unless you're scared." "I'm not scared." "Then what's the problem?" Victoria spread her arms wide. "This is America, isn't it? Land of opportunity? A janitor becoming a CEO. That's the dream, right? I'm handing it to you on a silver platter." Marcus looked at the truck. His father's truck. The same truck that had taught him everything he knew about engines, about patience, about finishing what you started. His father's voice echoed in his memory. "Don't let pride make your decisions, son. But don't let fear make them either." "And if I say no?" Marcus asked. "Then everyone here will know exactly what you are. A coward. A man who talks back to his boss but can't back it up when it matters." Victoria glanced at the crowd. "And I'll fire you anyway, for insubordination." "That's illegal." "Sue me. You've got a great lawyer, I'm sure." She had him. They both knew it. The crowd knew it. There was no path forward that didn't end with him humiliated, unemployed, or both. Except one. Marcus bent down and picked up the keys. "All right," he said. Victoria's eyebrows rose. "All right?" "Let's race." The crowd exploded. Shouts, cheers, gasps, all of it blending into a roar that echoed off the building walls. Phones angled higher. Someone yelled, "This is crazy!" Someone else yelled, "Get him, boss!" Victoria laughed, A real laugh this time. Well, well, the janitor has some backbone after all. She turned to one of her investors. Gerald, hold my jacket. This won't take long. She walked toward the Ferrari, her stride confident, her chin lifted. The crowd parted for her like water around a stone. Marcus walked to his truck. He could feel 100 eyes on his back, could hear the whispers. He's actually doing it. That truck doesn't stand a chance. She's going to destroy him. Poor guy. He's got a kid, doesn't he? That last one stopped him. He turned and saw a young woman from accounting. Sandra, he thought her name was. She looked worried. Genuinely worried. Mr. Thompson, she said quietly, you don't have to do this. Yeah, Marcus said. I do. He opened the truck door. The hinges creaked the way they always did. He slid into the driver's seat and felt the familiar sag of the old springs, the smooth wear of the steering wheel where his father's hands had gripped it for 30 years. On the dashboard, faded by decades of sun, was a photograph. A young Marcus, maybe 10 years old, standing next to his father in front of this very truck. Both of them smiling. Both of them covered in grease. His father had been gone for 8 years now. Heart attack. Quick, the doctor said. He didn't suffer. But Marcus had suffered, every day since. Every time he looked at that photo. Every time he turned this key. He turned the key now. The engine coughed, once, twice, then rumbled to life. Not loud, not aggressive, just steady. The sound of something that had been doing its job for longer than most people had been alive. Marcus rolled down the window. The hot air hit his face. Across the lot, Victoria's Ferrari roared. The sound was sharp, angry, designed to intimidate. She revved the engine twice, 3 times, making sure everyone heard. A supervisor Marcus didn't recognize walked to the space between the two vehicles. She held up her hands. All right, everyone. The race will go down the access road, around the warehouse, and back to this starting point. First vehicle to cross the line wins. She looked at Victoria, then at Marcus. Are both parties ready? Victoria revved again in response. Marcus nodded once. The supervisor raised her hand. The crowd fell silent. On your mark. Marcus gripped the wheel. Get set. His father's voice again. You don't have to be the fastest, son. You just have to finish. Go! Victoria's Ferrari shot forward like a bullet. Tires screamed, rubber burned. The car rocketed down the access road, disappearing around the first bend in seconds. The crowd cheered. Marcus pressed the accelerator. The truck moved forward. Not fast, not slow, just steady. Laughter rippled through the audience. He's not even trying. That thing can't go over 40. This is pathetic. Marcus didn't look at them. He kept his eyes on the road, kept his hands steady on the wheel, kept his breathing even. The truck rounded the first bend. The Ferrari was already out of sight, probably halfway to the warehouse by now. Didn't matter. Marcus knew this road. He'd driven it 1,000 times during late-night shifts, when the lot was empty and the world was quiet. He knew every pothole, every crack, every spot where the asphalt dipped just enough to catch a low suspension. The truck rumbled on. Up ahead, he heard something. A sound that didn't fit. A stutter, a cough. Then nothing. Marcus kept driving. Around the warehouse, down the back stretch. The truck holding steady at 45 miles per hour. The engine didn't strain, didn't complain, just worked, the way it always had. And then he saw it. The Ferrari stopped dead in the middle of the road. Hood popped, smoke curling from the engine bay. Victoria stood beside it, phone pressed to her ear, screaming at someone. I don't care about the warranty. I need a tow truck here in 5 minutes. Do you understand me? 5 minutes! Marcus slowed the truck, pulled up alongside her, rolled down the window. Victoria looked at him. Her face was red. Her mascara had started to smear. "Don't," she said. "Don't you dare say a word." Marcus didn't smile, didn't gloat. He just looked at her the way his father used to look at him when he was struggling with something. Patient, calm, waiting. "You need a ride?" he asked. "What?" "To the finish line. You need a ride?" Victoria stared at him. The phone slipped slightly in her hand. "You can't be serious." "Race isn't over. We both need to cross the finish line for it to count, don't we?" "I'm not getting in that truck." "Okay," Marcus shrugged. "Then I guess we wait here until someone comes. Could be a while, though. And all those people back there are going to wonder what happened." Victoria looked down the road, looked at her dead Ferrari, looked at the old blue truck idling beside her. Her shoulders dropped. "I hate you," she whispered. "I know." She walked around the truck and climbed into the passenger seat. The door groaned as she pulled it shut. The cracked leather squeaked beneath her. Marcus put the truck in gear. They drove in silence. The warehouse passed on their left. The back lot passed on their right. The sun hung low now, painting everything gold and orange. "How did you know?" Victoria finally asked. "Know what?" "That my car would break down." Marcus glanced at her. "I didn't." "Then why did you agree to this? You had no chance. No rational person would have taken that bet." Marcus thought about it. Thought about Maya waiting for him at home. Thought about his father's hands on this same steering wheel. Thought about 15 years of being invisible, being looked through, being dismissed. "My daughter," he said. "She's 8. Smartest kid I've ever known. Last week, she asked me why I let people talk to me the way they do. Why I never stand up for myself." Victoria said nothing. I didn't have a good answer for her. I told her that sometimes you have to pick your battles, that fighting isn't always worth it, that being the bigger person matters more than being right. He paused. "But then you threw those keys at me, and all those people were watching. And I thought about Maya seeing that video online someday, seeing her father get humiliated and just walk away." Marcus shook his head. "I couldn't let that be the lesson. I couldn't let her think that's what being a man means." The finish line came into view. The crowd had grown larger. Hundreds of people now, spilling across the parking lot, phones raised, waiting. "They're going to see me in this truck," Victoria said quietly. "Yeah." "My career is over." "Maybe." "I built that company from nothing. 15 years of my life. And now it's all going to end because of a parking spot." Marcus pulled the truck to a stop just before the finish line. "It's not ending because of a parking spot," he said. "It's ending because of how you treated people. The parking spot just gave everyone permission to notice." Victoria turned to look at him. Her eyes were wet. "Who are you?" she asked. "I told you. I'm Marcus Thompson. I work maintenance here. Night shift, mostly." He pressed the accelerator. The old blue truck rolled across the finish line, and the crowd went absolutely silent. The silence lasted exactly 4 seconds. Then someone started clapping. Slow at first. One pair of hands somewhere in the back of the crowd. Then another. Then another. Within moments, the entire parking lot erupted. Marcus turned off the engine. His hands were still steady, but his heart pounded against his ribs like it was trying to escape. Victoria hadn't moved. She sat frozen in the passenger seat, staring through the windshield at the crowd of employees, investors, and strangers who had just watched her world collapse. "They're cheering," she whispered. "They're actually cheering." "They're not cheering for me," Marcus said. "They're cheering because they've been waiting for this moment for a long time. You just never noticed." Victoria's hand found the door handle. She gripped it, but didn't pull. "I can't go out there." "You don't have a choice." "They'll tear me apart." "No. They'll watch you. That's worse, isn't it? Being watched when you can't control what they see." Victoria turned to look at him. Her eyes were red now, the tears she'd been fighting finally winning. "Why aren't you gloating? Why aren't you rubbing this in my face?" Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. The screen showed a photo of a little girl with braided hair and a gap-toothed smile, wearing a purple backpack 3 sizes too big for her. "Because my daughter's going to ask me about this day," he said. "And I want to be able to tell her I handled it right. All of it. Even the parts where I could have been cruel and chose not to be." He opened his door and stepped out. The crowd surged forward, but Marcus held up one hand. Something in the gesture, calm, authoritative, unexpected, made them stop. "Give her a minute," he said. A young man near the front laughed. "Give her a minute? After everything she's done?" "Yeah, give her a minute." "Man, she's fired half my department last year. Called us dead weight. Said we were lucky to have jobs at all." "I know." She made Rodriguez cry in front of the whole office. Told him his accent made him sound stupid. "I know." "Then why?" "Because that's her way." Marcus's voice cut through the noise. "It doesn't have to be ours." The young man went quiet. Others shifted uncomfortably. Behind Marcus, the truck door creaked open. Victoria stepped out slowly, her heels unsteady on the pavement. Her blazer was wrinkled. Her hair had come loose on one side. She looked smaller somehow, like the armor she'd worn for years had finally cracked open. Gerald, the investor who'd been holding her jacket, pushed through the crowd. His face was pale. "Victoria, we need to talk." "Not now, Gerald." "Yes, now. The board is on a conference call. They've been watching the live stream. All of them." Victoria's jaw tightened. "Tell them it was a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" Gerald laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You bet the company on a race with a janitor. On camera. In front of 300 witnesses. The stock is already dropping. I'm getting calls from journalists, lawyers, shareholders. I said not now." "Victoria, I said not now." Her voice echoed across the parking lot. The crowd flinched. Even Gerald took a step back. But Marcus didn't flinch. He stood exactly where he was, watching her with the same patient expression he'd worn since the beginning. Victoria saw him watching. Something in her face shifted. Not anger anymore, but something closer to confusion. "Why are you still here?" she asked. "I work here." "No, I mean, why are you still standing there? You won. The company is yours. Take it. Call a lawyer. Do whatever you're going to do." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. The crowd waited. Phones recorded. The whole world seemed to hold its breath. "I don't want your company," he finally said. A murmur rippled through the audience. Victoria blinked. "What?" "I said I don't want it." You can't be serious. You just won a billion-dollar company. You can't just walk away from that. Watch me." "But why?" Victoria stepped closer, her voice dropping. "This doesn't make sense. Nobody turns down that kind of money. Nobody." Marcus thought about his father. Thought about all those nights in the garage, the two of them covered in grease, working on an engine that everyone said was beyond saving. "What would you do with $1 billion, son?" his father had asked once. "Buy a mansion, a yacht, a bunch of cars." His father had laughed. "And then what?" "I don't know. Whatever rich people do." "Let me tell you something about rich people." His father had wiped his hands on a rag, leaving black streaks across the fabric. "The ones I've met, the ones who came into the shop over the years, most of them weren't happy. They had everything money could buy, but they were always chasing something else, something more. They never learned how to just be still, be grateful for what they had. So you don't want to be rich? I want to be at peace. And that's something money can't buy, no matter how much of it you have. Marcus came back to the present. Victoria was still staring at him, waiting for an answer that made sense to her. My father used to say that a man's worth isn't measured by what he owns, Marcus said. It's measured by what he leaves behind. And I'm not talking about money or property. I'm talking about the people he touched, the lives he changed, the moments that mattered. That's a nice speech, but it doesn't answer my question. Yeah, it does. You're just not listening. Victoria opened her mouth to respond, but another voice cut through the air. Mr. Thompson? Marcus turned. A woman in her 60s stood at the edge of the crowd, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore a simple navy suit, and she carried herself with a kind of quiet authority that didn't need to announce itself. I'm Eleanor Parrish, she said, chairwoman of the board. Victoria's face went white. Eleanor, I didn't know you were here. I wasn't. I was watching from my office downtown. Then I got in my car. Eleanor walked forward, her eyes never leaving Marcus. I wanted to meet the man who just turned down $1 billion on principle. Ma'am, you're just a janitor. Yes, I heard. Eleanor stopped in front of him. I've been in business for 40 years, Mr. Thompson. I've met presidents, kings, tech billionaires who could buy small countries. And I've never, not once, seen anyone do what you just did. I'm not looking for praise. I know. That's exactly why I'm giving it to you. She turned to Victoria. The warmth in her expression vanished. Victoria, you and I are going to have a very long conversation about what happened today. And tomorrow, you're going to have an even longer conversation with our legal team. Eleanor, please, don't. Eleanor held up one hand. Don't try to explain. Don't try to spin this. I watched you throw car keys at an employee. I watched you mock him, belittle him, threaten his livelihood. I watched you gamble with shareholder assets like they were poker chips at a casino. It was just a stupid bet. I never thought. That's exactly the problem. You never thought. You never stopped to consider that your actions have consequences, that the people who work for this company are human beings, not props for your entertainment. Victoria's chin trembled. I built this company. You did, and you nearly destroyed it today. The crowd had gone completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody even seemed to breathe. Gerald stepped forward hesitantly. Eleanor, perhaps we should take this conversation inside. No. Eleanor's voice was firm. Victoria made this public. She wanted an audience. Now she has one. She turned back to Marcus. Mr. Thompson, I meant what I said earlier. I'd like you to consider a position on our workplace culture committee, not as a token gesture, as a real voice. We clearly need someone who understands what it's like to be on the receiving end of this. Marcus shook his head. I appreciate that, ma'am, but I need to think about it. Of course, take your time. Here's my card. She handed him a small white rectangle. He looked at it for a moment, then tucked it into his shirt pocket. Can I go now? Victoria's voice had gone flat, defeated. Eleanor nodded. Yes, but don't leave town. And don't talk to the press until we've spoken with legal. Victoria walked toward the building without looking back. The crowd parted for her, but this time there was no deference in the movement, just people getting out of the way. Gerald hurried after her. Victoria, wait! Leave me alone, Gerald. We need to discuss the shareholders. I said, leave me alone. She disappeared through the glass doors. Gerald stood there for a moment, then followed. The crowd began to disperse. People drifted back toward the building, toward their cars, toward their lives. But many of them paused as they passed Marcus. A nod here, a quiet "thank you" there. A pat on the shoulder from the security guard who'd always nodded at him in the hallways. Sandra from accounting stopped in front of him. Her eyes were wet. "I've worked here for 7 years," she said. 7 years of watching her treat people like garbage, and nobody ever did anything. Nobody ever stood up. "I didn't stand up. I just didn't back down. There's a difference." "It felt the same to us." She walked away. Marcus stood alone in the parking lot. The sun had dropped lower now, painting long shadows across the pavement. His father's truck sat behind him, engine clicking as it cooled. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister, Denise. "Saw the video. What the hell, Marcus? Call me." Another buzz, this one from an unknown number. "Mr. Thompson, this is Channel 7 News. We'd love to interview you about today's events. Please call us at your earliest convenience." Another buzz, and another, and another. Marcus turned off his phone. He climbed back into the truck, closed the door, and sat there in the silence. His hands were shaking now. The adrenaline that had carried him through the last hour was finally fading, leaving something raw and exposed in its place. He looked at the photo on his dashboard. His father's smile. His own childhood grin. "Did I do okay, Pop?" he whispered. The photo didn't answer. It never did. But somehow, sitting there in the quiet, Marcus felt like he already knew. He drove out of the parking lot slowly. A few employees stopped to watch him go. Someone waved. He waved back. The route home took him through downtown, past the gleaming office towers and expensive restaurants where people like Victoria Hale ate lunch, past the homeless encampment under the bridge where he sometimes dropped off sandwiches on his way to work, past the elementary school where Maya would be waiting in the after-school program, probably wondering why her dad was late. His phone was still off, but he could feel it buzzing against his thigh. The world wanted a piece of him now. They wanted interviews, statements, reactions. They wanted to turn him into a story, a symbol, a lesson for others to learn from. But Marcus didn't want to be any of those things. He just wanted to pick up his daughter. The after-school program was housed in a portable building behind the main school. Marcus pulled into the lot and parked, taking a moment to look at himself in the rearview mirror. His eyes were tired. His face was drawn. But he forced a smile, the kind Maya expected to see when he walked through the door. He got out and walked toward the building. Maya spotted him through the window before he even reached the door. Her face lit up, and she came running out to meet him, her purple backpack bouncing against her small shoulders. "Daddy!" She slammed into his legs with enough force to make him stumble. He laughed and scooped her up, holding her tight. "Hey, baby girl." "You're late." "I know, I'm sorry. Had a long day at work. Mrs. Patterson said I could play extra games because you were late. So it's okay." "Well, that's good then." He set her down and took her hand. They walked toward the truck together. Maya stopped when she saw it. Her eyes went wide. "Daddy, why is Grandpa's truck so dirty?" Marcus looked at the old Chevy. Dust from the race still clung to the fenders. A scratch he hadn't noticed before ran along the passenger door. The whole thing looked even more battered than usual. "Had to take it for a long drive today," he said. "Where?" "Just around." Maya accepted this with the easy trust of an 8-year-old. She climbed into the passenger seat and buckled herself in, her feet dangling above the floor. Marcus got in beside her. He turned the key. The engine rumbled to life, steady as always.
Daddy,
Yeah, baby?
Jalen at school said his dad has a new car, a Tesla. He said it drives itself.
That's pretty cool.
He said Grandpa's truck is old and ugly.
Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. What did you say? Maya shrugged.
I told him that my daddy says old things have more stories than new things, and that Grandpa's truck has the best stories of all.
Marcus had to look away for a moment, had to blink hard. That's exactly right, baby girl. They drove in silence for a while. Maya hummed a song she'd learned at school. Marcus let the familiar streets carry him home, his mind still echoing with everything that had happened.
Daddy,
Yeah?
are you sad?
He glanced at her. Why do you ask?
You look sad. The way you looked when Grandpa went to heaven.
Marcus pulled the truck over to the side of the road. He put it in park and turned to face his daughter. I'm not sad, he said. I'm just thinking.
About what?
About how proud I am. Of you. Of who you're becoming. Maya tilted her head.
Did I do something good?
You do something good every day, baby. Every single day. She smiled. The gap in her teeth made it even more perfect.
Can we get ice cream?
Marcus laughed. The sound surprised him. It felt good. Real. Yeah, he said. We can get ice cream. He pulled back onto the road. The ice cream shop was a small place near their apartment, run by an elderly Vietnamese couple who knew Marcus by name. They ordered their usual, vanilla for Maya, chocolate for Marcus, and sat at a wobbly table near the window. Maya attacked her cone with the intensity of a child who knew exactly what she wanted from life. Marcus watched her, letting the simple joy of the moment wash over him.
Daddy? What's a janitor?
Marcus froze. Why do you ask?
I heard some kids talking. They said their parents work in offices, and I said you work at night cleaning stuff. And they said that means you're a janitor. And then they laughed.
The ice cream suddenly tasted like cardboard. Marcus set his cone down. Maya, look at me. She looked up. Chocolate smeared across her cheek. Being a janitor is honest work. It means I make sure people have a clean place to do their jobs. It means I take care of things that other people don't want to take care of. There's nothing wrong with that.
I know. I told them you're the hardest working person I know.
You did?
Yeah. And then I told them that my daddy can fix any car in the whole world, and that he taught me how to change a tire last summer, and that he makes the best pancakes on Saturdays, and that he reads me stories every night, even when he's super tired.
Marcus couldn't speak. His throat had closed up.
Was that okay? Maya asked. Did I say the right things?
He reached across the table and took her hand. Yeah, baby. You said exactly the right things. They finished their ice cream as the sun set outside. Marcus's phone was still off, still buzzing occasionally in his pocket, still carrying 1,000 messages from a world that wanted something from him. But right now, in this moment, the only thing that mattered was the little girl across from him, with chocolate on her face and love in her eyes. The world could wait. They drove home as the streetlights flickered on. Their apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that had seen better days. Peeling paint, creaky stairs, a lobby that smelled faintly of mildew. But it was home. It had been home since Marcus's wife passed 3 years ago. Since he'd had to sell their house to pay the medical bills. Since he'd learned that survival sometimes meant accepting less. Maya ran up the stairs ahead of him, her backpack bouncing with each step. Marcus followed more slowly, his body finally registering the exhaustion of the day. His sister Denise was waiting at the top of the stairs.
Oh, hell no, she said. You turned off your phone? Do you know how many times I called? Denise. Don't you Denise me. I've been watching that video for the last 2 hours. Everybody's been watching it. It's got like 3 million views already.
3 million?
Yes, 3 million. And you just walked away without saying anything? Do you know what people are saying about you online?
I don't care what people are saying online.
Well, you should, because right now you're a folk hero. The janitor who beat the CEO. The little guy who stood up to the big guy. People are making memes, Marcus. Memes.
Maya had reached the door and was struggling with the key. Marcus walked past Denise to help her. I'm not a folk hero, he said. I'm just a guy who drove his truck across a parking lot.
That's not what it looked like to 3 million people.
Marcus opened the door. Maya ran inside, heading straight for her room to change out of her school clothes. He turned to his sister. Denise, I love you, but I can't do this right now. It's been a long day. Maya needs dinner. I need to sleep. Whatever's happening on the internet can wait until tomorrow.
What about the company?
What about it?
You won it. It's legally yours now. There are lawyers on Twitter already saying you could sue for breach of verbal contract if they don't hand it over.
I don't want it. Denise stared at him.
You don't want a billion-dollar company.
No.
Marcus Thompson, have you lost your entire mind?
Maybe, but it's still my mind. She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Something in his expression must have told her this wasn't a battle she could win.
Fine, she said. But we're talking about this tomorrow.
First thing, no excuses.
Fine.
She hugged him. It was quick, fierce, the way she'd hugged him since they were kids.
I'm proud of you, she whispered, even if you are an idiot.
Thanks, Denise. She left. Marcus closed the door and leaned against it, letting the silence of the apartment settle over him. From Maya's room, he heard her singing to herself. Some song about butterflies. She sang it every night while she changed. He pushed himself off the door and went to make dinner. The kitchen was small, barely room for 2 people to stand side by side. But Marcus had learned to make it work. He pulled chicken from the fridge, rice from the cabinet, vegetables from the crisper drawer. The motions were automatic, the kind of routine that had become meditation over the years. As he cooked, he let himself think about everything that had happened. Victoria's face when the keys hit his chest. The roar of her Ferrari disappearing down the access road. The silence when her engine died. The look in her eyes when she climbed into his truck. He didn't hate her. That surprised him. After everything she'd said, everything she'd done, he expected to feel anger, resentment, the satisfaction of watching someone who'd hurt him finally get what they deserved. But all he felt was tired. And maybe, underneath the exhaustion, something else. Pity. He thought about what she'd said in the truck. I built that company from nothing. 15 years of my life. 15 years, and now it might all be gone. Because she couldn't control her temper. Because she needed to feel powerful more than she needed to be kind. What kind of life was that? Marcus plated the food and called Maya to dinner. She came running, her hair now loose around her shoulders, wearing her favorite pajamas, even though it was only 7 o'clock. You're supposed to wait until bedtime for those, he said.
But they're so comfy.
Can't argue with that. They ate together at the small table by the window. Maya talked about her day, the math test she'd aced, the argument she'd had with her best friend at recess, the new boy in class who ate glue for attention. Marcus listened to every word, nodded at the right moments, asked questions that made her light up. This was what mattered. This right here. Not the company, not the millions of views. Not the job offers that would probably come flooding in once he turned his phone back on. Just this: a father and his daughter, a simple meal, a quiet evening. After dinner, Maya helped with the dishes. Her job was drying while Marcus washed. They had a system. It worked. "Daddy?" "Yeah?" "You never told me what happened today. The long drive. Was it for work?" Marcus handed her a plate. She rubbed it with a towel, her small hands careful and precise. "Sort of," he said. "Someone at work challenged me to a race." "A race? In Grandpa's truck?" "Yeah. Did you win?" Marcus thought about it. The finish line, the crowd, Victoria in the passenger seat. "I finished," he said. Maya nodded seriously. "Grandpa always said finishing is what matters." "Yeah, he did." She handed him back the plate. He stacked it in the cabinet. "I think Grandpa would be proud of you today," she said. Marcus looked down at his daughter, 8 years old, missing her front tooth, wearing butterfly pajamas and holding a dish towel like it was the most important job in the world. "I think so too, baby girl," he said. "I think so too." Marcus woke at 3:47 in the morning. His body was used to the schedule. 15 years of night shifts had trained him to sleep in fragments, to wake before alarms, to function on less rest than most people could imagine. But tonight was different. Tonight, his mind wouldn't settle. He lay in the darkness of his small bedroom, staring at the ceiling, listening to the distant hum of traffic on the highway. Maya's soft breathing drifted through the thin wall between their rooms. Steady, peaceful, unaware of how much the world had changed in the last 12 hours. His phone sat on the nightstand. He hadn't turned it on since leaving the parking lot. Hadn't checked a single message. Hadn't looked at the video that, according to Denise, had already been watched millions of times. He reached for it now. The screen lit up. Notifications flooded in. Texts, emails, missed calls, voicemails. The numbers kept climbing as the phone struggled to catch up with everything it had missed. 47 missed calls. 212 text messages. 1,847 emails. Marcus stared at the numbers. His stomach turned. He opened the text messages first. Most were from numbers he didn't recognize. Interview requests, business proposals, people claiming to be lawyers, agents, producers. But scattered among them were messages from people he knew. His cousin Raymond. "Bro, what? Call me." His old friend Jerome from high school. Marcus Thompson, the internet legend. Never thought I'd see the day. His landlord, of all people. "Saw the video. Rent's still due on the 1st, though, LOL." And then, near the bottom, a message from a number with no name attached, sent at 11:43 p.m. "Mr. Thompson, this is Victoria Hale. We need to talk. Please call me." Marcus read it 3 times. Then he set the phone down. He got out of bed and walked to the window. The city sprawled beneath him, lights twinkling in the pre-dawn darkness. Somewhere out there, Victoria Hale was awake too. He was certain of it. He thought about calling her, thought about what he would even say, but something held him back. Not anger, not fear, just the sense that whatever conversation they needed to have shouldn't happen at 4 a.m., in the raw hours when defenses were down and words came out wrong. It could wait until morning. He went back to bed, but didn't sleep, just lay there, watching the ceiling slowly brighten as the sun crept toward the horizon, thinking about all the ways his life was about to change. Maya woke him at 7:15. "Daddy, you overslept." Marcus jerked upright. He finally drifted off around 6, and his body had betrayed him. I'm up.
You're supposed to make pancakes on Saturday.
I know, baby. Give me 5 minutes. He stumbled to the bathroom, splashed water on his face, and stared at himself in the mirror. He looked older than 35. Tired. The lines around his eyes seemed deeper than they'd been yesterday. But there was something else there, too. Something he couldn't quite name. He made the pancakes. Chocolate chip, Maya's favorite. She ate them at the kitchen table while he sipped coffee and tried to prepare himself for the day ahead.
Daddy, your phone keeps buzzing.
I know.
Are you going to answer it?
Eventually.
Why not now?
Marcus set down his coffee.
Because sometimes, baby, people want things from you that you're not ready to give. And it's okay to take a minute before you decide what to share.
Maya considered this with the seriousness of a philosophy professor.
Like when Jalen wants to copy my homework, and I need to think about whether that's really helping him?
Marcus smiled. Exactly like that. The buzzing continued. Marcus ignored it. At 9 a.m., there was a knock on the apartment door. Maya looked up from her cartoons.
Who's that?
I don't know. Stay here. Marcus walked to the door and checked the peephole. Denise stood on the other side, arms crossed, foot tapping. He opened the door. Before you say anything, he started.
9 million.
What?
9 million views. That's where it's at now. It was 3 million when I saw you last night. It's 9 million this morning.
Denise.
The Today Show called me. The Today Show, Marcus. They want you on Monday. Good Morning America reached out too. And CNN.
And Fox. And some guy from a podcast with 20 million subscribers who says he'll fly you anywhere in the country just for a 30-minute interview. She pushed past him into the apartment. Maya waved from the couch.
Hi, Auntie Denise. Hey, baby girl. Your daddy's famous now. Did he tell you? He said he had a long day at work.
Denise shot Marcus a look. A long day at work. That's what you told her.
She's 8. She's going to find out eventually. Kids at school probably already know. Their parents definitely know.
Marcus closed the door. I'll tell her when I'm ready.
When's that going to be? When she sees it on the news? When some kid shows her the video at recess?
Denise, please. Something in his voice made her stop. She looked at him, really looked at him, and her expression softened.
You didn't sleep, did you?
Not much.
You look like hell.
Thanks.
She sat down on the couch next to Maya. I'm sorry. I know I'm pushing. It's just...
This is big, Marcus. This is really big. And I don't want you to miss the opportunity because you're too stubborn to grab it. What opportunity?
Are you serious? People are calling you a hero. Companies are going to want you as a spokesperson. You could write a book. You could start a foundation.
I could also go back to work on Monday and pretend none of this ever happened. Denise laughed. Yeah, good luck with that. Marcus sat down in the worn armchair across from her. I don't want to be famous, Denise. I don't want interviews and book deals and people analyzing my life. I just want to raise my daughter and live in peace. That ship has sailed. Whether you like it or not, you're a public figure now. The question isn't whether you engage with it, it's how you engage with it. What if I don't engage at all? Then other people control the narrative. They tell your story for you. They make you into whatever they want you to be, a saint, a villain, a symbol.
You lose the ability to define yourself.
Marcus rubbed his temples. She wasn't wrong. He knew she wasn't wrong. But knowing something and accepting it were two different things. His phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen. Victoria Hale. Calling. Denise saw the name. Her eyes went wide.
Is that?
Yeah.
Are you going to answer?
Marcus stared at the phone. It buzzed again, again, again. Then it stopped. A moment later, a text appeared. Please, it's important. Denise leaned forward. What does she want? I don't know. You should find out. Should I? Marcus, she just bet her entire company on a race with you and lost. Whatever she's got to say, it's probably worth hearing. He looked at his daughter, who had returned her attention to the cartoons. Oblivious, innocent, protected, for now, from the chaos swirling around them. Watch Maya for a few minutes? Of course. Marcus grabbed his phone and walked into the bedroom. He closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed, and called Victoria back. She answered on the first ring. Mr. Thompson. Miss Hale. A pause. He could hear her breathing on the other end. It sounded shaky. Thank you for calling me back. You said it was important. It is. Another pause. I need to see you, in person, today, if possible. Why? Because I owe you an apology, a real one, not the kind you give in front of cameras because your lawyers tell you to, the kind you give because you actually mean it. Marcus was silent. He hadn't expected this. I also need to talk to you about the company, Victoria continued. About what happens next. The board is meeting this afternoon and they want you there. Me? Why? Because you won. Because legally, technically, you have a claim. And because Eleanor Parrish specifically requested your presence. I already told you I don't want the company. I know, but there are things you need to understand before you make that final. Things I should have told you yesterday, before everything went sideways. What things? Not over the phone, please. Can you come to my office around noon? Marcus thought about it. He had every reason to say no, every reason to walk away from this entire situation and never look back. But something in her voice stopped him, something that sounded almost like desperation, or maybe just exhaustion, the same exhaustion he felt. Noon, he said. I'll be there. Thank you. She hung up. Marcus sat on the bed for a long moment, phone still in his hand. Then he went back to the living room. Denise looked up. Well? I'm meeting her at noon. You're what? She wants to apologize, and the board wants me at their meeting this afternoon. Marcus, you need a lawyer. You can't just walk into a boardroom without representation. I'm not walking into anything. I'm just going to listen. That's exactly what they want you to think. They're going to pressure you, manipulate you, try to make you sign something. Denise, he held up a hand. I know you're trying to protect me, but I need to handle this my way. She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped, took a breath, nodded. Fine, but I'm coming with you. What about Maya? I'll call Mom. She's been wanting to spend time with her granddaughter anyway. Denise, this isn't negotiable, Marcus. You're my brother. I'm not letting you walk into that building alone. He could see from her expression that arguing would be pointless. And if he was being honest with himself, he was grateful not to have to face this alone. Okay, he said. Okay. 2 hours later, Marcus pulled his father's truck into the parking lot of Hale Industries. The building looked different in daylight, bigger somehow, more imposing. The glass facade reflected the sun like a mirror, turning the whole structure into a pillar of light. Denise sat in the passenger seat, her jaw tight with determination. You ready? She asked. No. Good, let's go. They got out and walked toward the entrance. Marcus felt every eye on him. Security guards, employees passing through the lobby, people who recognized him from the video, their expressions shifting from confusion to recognition, to something that looked almost like awe. The receptionist stood up when she saw him coming. "Mr. Thompson, Miss Hale is expecting you. Top floor, corner office." "Thank you." They walked to the elevator. The doors opened. Two men in suits stepped out, both staring at Marcus like he was a ghost. He stepped in. Denise followed. The doors closed. "You're handling this better than I would," Denise said. "I'm not handling anything. I'm just moving forward." "That's handling it." The elevator climbed. Marcus watched the numbers tick higher. 10, 15, 20. "Remember what Dad used to say?" he asked. "He said a lot of things. About walking into a room where you feel like you don't belong." Denise smiled slightly. "Walk in like you own the place. Because confidence isn't about what you have. It's about what you believe." "Yeah." The elevator reached the top floor. The doors opened. Victoria Hale stood waiting. She looked different from yesterday. No power suit, no perfect makeup. She wore a simple black dress, her hair pulled back, her face bare. She looked tired, human, smaller than he remembered. "Mr. Thompson, thank you for coming." Her eyes shifted to Denise. "And you are?" "His sister, and his witness." Victoria nodded slowly. "Fair enough. Please, come in." She led them down a hallway to her office. The space was large but surprisingly understated. A desk, some chairs, a wall of windows overlooking the city. No trophies, no awards on display. Just a single photograph on the desk, showing a younger Victoria standing next to an older man who shared her eyes. "My father," Victoria said, noticing Marcus's gaze. "He started this company 40 years ago. Worked himself into an early grave building it. I took over when I was 27. Youngest CEO in the industry." "I didn't know that." "Most people don't. They just see the result. The money. The power. They don't see what it costs to get here." She gestured to the chairs. Marcus and Denise sat. Victoria remained standing, her back to the windows. "I've been awake all night," she said, "thinking about what happened, about what I did, about what I've become." "And what did you conclude?" Victoria laughed. It was hollow, joyless. "That I turned into everything I swore I'd never be. When my father ran this company, he knew every employee by name. Janitors, executives, everyone. He believed that a company was only as strong as the people at the bottom, because they're the foundation everything else stands on." She turned to face them. "He would have been ashamed of me yesterday. Ashamed of how I treated you. Ashamed of the spectacle I made. He didn't raise me to be that person. Then why did you become her?" The question hung in the air. Victoria's composure cracked, just for a moment. "Because it was easier. Because when you're a woman in this industry, you learn very quickly that kindness gets interpreted as weakness. That being respected means being feared. That the only way to survive is to become harder than the people trying to bring you down." That's an explanation, not an excuse. "I know. I'm not making excuses. I'm just trying to understand how I got here. How I became someone who throws keys at strangers and bets her company on ego." Denise leaned forward. "What exactly do you want from my brother?" Victoria took a deep breath. "I want to apologize. Genuinely. Not because the board is forcing me to. Not because my lawyers said it might help. Because I looked at myself in the mirror this morning, and I didn't recognize the person looking back." She walked around the desk and sat in the chair across from Marcus, putting them at the same level. "Mr. Thompson, I am sorry. For the things I said. For the way I treated you. For using you as a prop to make myself feel powerful in front of people I was trying to impress. It was wrong. It was cruel. And it was beneath both of us." Marcus studied her face, looking for signs of manipulation, looking for the angle. but all he saw was exhaustion and something that might have been genuine remorse. "I accept your apology," he said. Victoria blinked. "Just like that?" "Holding on to anger is exhausting, and I've got a daughter who needs me to have energy for things that actually matter." "You're a better person than I am." "No, I've just had more practice forgiving people who hurt me." The words landed hard. Victoria looked away, her jaw tightening. "The board meeting is in an hour," she said quietly. "Eleanor Parrish wants to discuss the future of the company, including your role in it. I already told you. I know what you told me. But please, just hear them out. There are things at stake that go beyond you or me." "Like what?" 4,000 employees, their families, their mortgages, their kids' college funds. If this company goes down, if the scandal from yesterday destroys us, all of those people suffer. Marcus hadn't thought about that, hadn't considered the ripple effects. "What exactly is Eleanor proposing?" "I don't know the details, but I know she doesn't want to destroy the company. She wants to save it, and for some reason, she believes you're part of how that happens." Denise spoke up. "And what happens to you?" Victoria's smile was sad. "I imagine I'll be asked to resign, or take a significant step back. The board has been looking for an excuse for years. I gave them the perfect one." "Do you deserve that?" "Probably. I've made a lot of enemies over the years. People I stepped on to get where I am. People I dismissed, belittled, destroyed. You're not the first person I've treated badly, Mr. Thompson. You're just the first one who made me face the consequences." Marcus stood. He walked to the window and looked out at the city sprawling below. Millions of people going about their lives, unaware of the drama unfolding in this glass tower. "My father built cars," he said. "Well, he fixed them mostly. But sometimes he built them from scratch. Took old junkers nobody wanted and turned them into something beautiful." "The truck?" "Yeah, the truck. He worked on it for 3 years. People told him it was a waste of time. Told him to just buy something new. But he kept at it, night after night, weekend after weekend, until finally it ran better than anything off the lot." He turned to face Victoria. "You know what he said when he finished?" "What?" "He said, the value of something isn't what it costs. It's what it took to make it." He wasn't talking about money. He was talking about effort, sacrifice, love. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you built something too. Not the way my father did, maybe, but you put 15 years into this company. That has to count for something." "It doesn't feel like it counts for much right now." "Maybe not, but that doesn't mean it can't count for something in the future." Victoria stared at him. Something shifted in her expression, confusion giving way to something else. Hope, maybe, or just the absence of despair. "Why are you being kind to me, after everything I did?" "Because my daughter is going to ask me about this day someday, and I want to be able to tell her that I treated everyone with dignity, even the people who didn't deserve it." The intercom on Victoria's desk buzzed. "Miss Hale, the board is assembling in the conference room." Victoria stood. Her hands were trembling slightly. "Will you come?" she asked Marcus. "Just to listen. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to agree to anything. Just be there." Marcus looked at Denise. She shrugged. The choice was his. He thought about Maya, about what he would tell her, about the kind of man he wanted to be. "Yeah," he said. "I'll come." They walked down the hallway together, the billionaire CEO, the janitor, and his sister. An unlikely trio, heading toward a meeting that would determine the future of 4,000 people. The conference room doors loomed ahead, heavy and imposing. Victoria stopped just before them. She turned to Marcus. "Whatever happens in there,
I want you to know something.
What's that?
You changed something in me yesterday. I don't know if it's permanent. I don't know if I can be different. But for the first time in a long time, I want to try.
Marcus nodded.
That's all any of us can do. Victoria took a deep breath. Then she pushed open the doors. The board was waiting. 12 faces turned toward them as they entered. The conference room was long and narrow, dominated by a table that could seat 20. Every chair was filled. Men and women in expensive suits, their expressions ranging from curious to hostile to carefully neutral. Eleanor Parrish sat at the head of the table. She rose when she saw Marcus.
Mr. Thompson, thank you for joining us.
Ma'am?
Please, take a seat.
She gestured to 2 empty chairs near her end of the table.
Your sister is welcome as well.
Marcus and Denise sat. Victoria moved to the opposite end of the table, putting as much distance between herself and the board as possible. The tension in the room was thick enough to taste.
Let's begin, Eleanor said. I assume everyone has seen the video by now.
Nods around the table.
One man, Gerald, the investor from yesterday, shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Good. Then I don't need to recap what happened. What we need to discuss is what happens next.
Eleanor's gaze swept the room.
The company's stock dropped 18% this morning. We've received calls from 3 major clients threatening to pull their contracts. Our PR department is in crisis mode, and there are already 4 law firms circling, smelling blood.
This is a disaster, someone muttered.
It's a situation, Eleanor corrected. Disasters are unmanageable. Situations can be handled.
How exactly do you propose we handle this? Gerald asked.
Victoria publicly bet the company on a race, on camera, with witnesses. If Mr. Thompson decides to pursue legal action,
I'm not pursuing legal action, Marcus said.
Every head turned toward him.
Excuse me?
Gerald leaned forward.
You have grounds for a massive lawsuit. Breach of verbal contract, intentional infliction of emotional distress,
hostile work environment. You could walk away with millions.
I'm not interested in millions.
Then what are you interested in?
Marcus was quiet for a moment. He could feel Denise tense beside him, probably worried he was about to give away his leverage.
I'm interested in going back to my life, he said finally. I have a daughter to raise, bills to pay, a job that needs doing. What happened yesterday was unexpected, but I don't want to build my future on someone else's mistake.
A murmur rippled through the room. Eleanor studied him with those sharp, intelligent eyes.
That's remarkably generous, Mr. Thompson.
It's not generous, it's practical. If I sue, lawyers get rich. The company might collapse. 4,000 people lose their jobs. My daughter gets to watch her father become someone defined by anger and revenge. He shook his head. That's not the example I want to set.
So you're just going to walk away? Pretend none of this happened?
I didn't say that.
Eleanor's eyebrow rose.
Then what are you saying?
Marcus took a breath. He hadn't planned this part, hadn't rehearsed any speech or prepared any demands. But sitting here, surrounded by people who controlled more money than he'd see in 100 lifetimes, he felt something crystallize inside him. Yesterday, Ms. Hale threw her keys at me and called my truck a piece of junk. She mocked me in front of my coworkers. She threatened my job because I parked in a spot that wasn't even marked as reserved. Victoria flinched but said nothing. And you know what? That wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was that nobody said anything. Dozens of people stood there watching, and not one person stepped forward to say, "This isn't right." Because they were afraid. Because they'd seen what happens to people who cross her. Because this company, this culture, taught them that staying silent was safer than standing up.
The room had gone completely still. I don't want your money.
I don't want your company. But I want things to change. I want the people who work here to feel like they matter, like their dignity is worth protecting, like they're more than just bodies filling desks. Gerald snorted. With all due respect, Mr. Thompson, you're a janitor. What do you know about running a company? I know that a company is only as strong as its weakest employee. I know that fear makes people work harder, but loyalty makes them work better. I know that the way you treat the people at the bottom says more about you than how you treat the people at the top. Lovely sentiments, but this is business, not a motivational poster.
Gerald, Eleanor's voice was sharp. Let him finish.
Marcus nodded gratefully. I'm not asking to run anything. I'm not qualified for that, and I know it. But Ms. Parrish offered me a position on a workplace culture committee. If that offer still stands, I'd like to accept it. Not as a token gesture, as a real voice for the people who don't usually get heard. Eleanor's face softened. The offer stands, Mr. Thompson. In fact, I'd like to expand it. I'm proposing that you serve as an official advisor to the board on matters of employee relations and workplace environment. Paid position. Voting seat on relevant committees.
Eleanor, you can't be serious, Gerald protested. He has no credentials, no experience, no... He has something more valuable than credentials, Gerald. He has credibility. After yesterday, every employee in this company knows who Marcus Thompson is. They know he stood up to the CEO and didn't back down. They know he won and chose not to take revenge. That kind of moral authority can't be bought or manufactured. She turned back to Marcus. What do you say? Marcus looked at Denise. She gave him a small nod, her way of saying, "This is your call." He thought about his father,
About all those nights in the garage, working on an engine that everyone said was beyond saving. About the patience it took to rebuild something broken. "I'll do it," he said, "on one condition." "Name it." "I want to keep my job, the night shift, the maintenance work, all of it." Gerald laughed. "You want to be a board advisor and a janitor at the same time?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because the day I stop cleaning floors is the day I forget what it feels like to be the person cleaning floors. And then I'm useless to you anyway." The room fell silent again. But this time, the silence felt different. Thoughtful rather than hostile. Eleanor smiled. It was the first genuine smile Marcus had seen from anyone in this building. "Done," she said. "Now wait just a minute," Gerald started. "The matter is settled, Gerald. Mr. Thompson will join our advisory committee effective immediately, while maintaining his current position. Any objections can be formally submitted for review at our next quarterly meeting." Gerald's jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. Eleanor stood. "Now, let's address the other matter at hand." She turned to Victoria. "Ms. Hale, the board has discussed your future with this company at length." Victoria rose slowly. Her face was pale, but her voice was steady. "I understand." "Do you? Because I want to be very clear about what's happening here. Your actions yesterday were reckless, unprofessional, and potentially catastrophic. You exposed this company to massive legal liability. You damaged our reputation in ways that may take years to repair. You humiliated an employee on camera for the entertainment of your guests. I know. The board has voted to remove you as CEO." The words landed like stones. Victoria's composure cracked, just for a moment. "I expected as much." "However," Eleanor paused, "the vote was not unanimous, and several board members, myself included, believe that your 15 years of service to this company deserve consideration. You've built something remarkable here, Victoria, something your father would have been proud of. The question is whether you're capable of being part of its future without being in control of it." "What are you proposing?"
A new role, Chief Strategy Officer. You would retain your expertise and influence, but the day-to-day operations and the public face of the company would transfer to new leadership. You're demoting me. I'm giving you a chance to stay, which is more than most people in this room wanted to offer. Victoria looked around the table. Some faces showed sympathy. Others showed barely concealed satisfaction. Gerald was practically glowing with vindication. And if I refuse? Then you leave with a severance package and your shares. But you lose any voice in the company your father built. The choice hung in the air.
Marcus watched Victoria wrestle with it. The pride, the anger, the grief, all warring behind her eyes. He thought about what she'd said in her office, about wanting to try to be different, about not recognizing the person in the mirror. "Miss Hale," he said. She turned to look at him, surprised. "My father used to say that the hardest part of fixing something isn't finding the broken piece. It's admitting that something's broken in the first place. You already did the hard part." Victoria's eyes glistened. She took a shaky breath. "I'll accept the position," she said to Eleanor. "On one condition." "Name it." "I want Mr. Thompson to have veto power over any decision that directly affects frontline workers. If he says no, it doesn't happen, no matter how much sense it makes on paper." Gerald erupted. "That's absurd. You can't give a janitor—" "I can give whatever I want, Gerald. It's part of my agreement to step down. Take it or leave it." Eleanor looked at Marcus. "Mr. Thompson, is that acceptable to you?" Marcus didn't know what to say. An hour ago, he'd been a man who mopped floors for a living. Now he was being handed power that executives spent decades trying to accumulate. "Why?" he asked Victoria. "Why would you give me that?" "Because I trust you more than I trust anyone else in this room. Because you had every reason to destroy me yesterday, and you didn't. Because maybe if someone like you had been around years ago, I wouldn't have become this." The room was silent. Marcus nodded slowly. "Okay, I accept." Eleanor clapped her hands together. "Then we have an agreement. Let the record show that Victoria Hale has resigned as CEO and will assume the role of Chief Strategy Officer. Marcus Thompson will join the board as Employee Relations Advisor, with veto authority over worker impact decisions. We'll issue a press release this afternoon." The meeting adjourned. People filed out, murmuring among themselves. Some glanced at Marcus with curiosity, others with skepticism, a few with something that looked almost like hope. Denise grabbed his arm as they walked toward the elevator. "Did that really just happen?" "I think so." "You're on the board of a billion-dollar company while working as a janitor." "Seems that way." "Mom is going to lose her mind." "Probably." They stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. "Marcus?" "Yeah?" "I'm proud of you. Really, genuinely proud. Dad would have been too." Marcus felt something catch in his throat. He nodded, not trusting himself to speak. The elevator descended. When they reached the lobby, a crowd was waiting. Employees lined the hallways, the stairs, the entrance. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all watching the elevator doors with an expectation that bordered on reverence. Sandra from accounting stood at the front. She started clapping. Others joined. The applause built, echoing off the marble floors and glass walls until it sounded like thunder. Marcus stood frozen. He'd never experienced anything like this, never been the center of attention in any room, let alone a room full of people who knew his name. "Speech!" someone shouted. "Yeah, say something!" Marcus looked at Denise. She shrugged and stepped aside.
He cleared his throat. "I'm not good at this," he said. His voice was quiet, but somehow the room went silent to hear him. "I'm not a CEO. I'm not a businessman. I'm just a guy who comes in at night and makes sure the floors are clean and the trash gets taken out." A few people laughed, not mocking, warm. "But I've been doing that for 15 years. And in that time, I've learned something about the people who work here. I've learned that the receptionist, who always smiles, has a mother with cancer, and she works overtime to pay the medical bills. I've learned that the security guard on the night shift is putting himself through law school, one class at a time. I've learned that the woman who cleans the bathrooms sends half her paycheck back to her family in Guatemala." The laughter faded. People leaned in. "You're not just employees. You're not just numbers on a spreadsheet. You're human beings with stories and struggles and dreams. And from now on, there's going to be someone at the table who remembers that. Not because I'm special, but because somebody has to." The applause erupted again, louder than before. Marcus ducked his head, embarrassed by the attention. Denise rescued him, guiding him through the crowd toward the exit. They pushed through the glass doors into the afternoon sun. His father's truck sat in the parking lot, exactly where he'd left it. Dusty, dented, beautiful. "Mr. Thompson." He turned. Victoria stood behind them, having followed them out. "I just wanted to say thank you for everything." "You don't need to thank me." "Yes, I do. You could have destroyed me. You chose not to. That's not nothing." Marcus studied her face. She looked different than she had yesterday. Lighter somehow, like a weight had been lifted. "What are you going to do now?" he asked. "I don't know. Learn how to be someone different, I suppose. Figure out who I am when I'm not in control of everything." "That's hard work." "I imagine it is." She paused. "I hope you'll help me. When I slip. When I start turning back into who I was. I hope you'll tell me." "I will." "Promise?" "Promise." She extended her hand. Marcus shook it. "I'll see you Monday," she said, "at the Culture Committee meeting." "I'll be there." Victoria walked back toward the building. The glass doors swallowed her, and she was gone. Denise exhaled loudly. "That was the weirdest day of my life." "Same." "What now?" Marcus looked at his truck, thought about his daughter, thought about pancakes and ice cream and bedtime stories. "Now I go home," he said. "Pick up Maya from Mom's house, make dinner, maybe watch a movie if she hasn't already picked one." "That's it? After all this?" "That's everything, Denise. That's always been everything." He climbed into the truck. The engine turned over on the first try, that familiar rumble settling into his bones. Denise got in beside him. They drove out of the parking lot, past the glass tower, past the security gates, past the world that had tried to make Marcus Thompson into something other than what he was. He turned onto the highway. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Daddy's going to be on the news," Denise said, half to herself. "Probably." "You ready for that?" "No." "What are you ready for?" Marcus thought about it, really thought about it. "Dinner with my daughter," he said. "That's about as far as I've planned." Denise laughed. Fair enough. They drove in comfortable silence. The city scrolled past, giving way to suburbs, giving way to the familiar streets of home. Marcus pulled up to his mother's house. Maya was already on the porch, bouncing with impatience. "Daddy!" She ran to the truck before he could even get out. He scooped her up, holding her tight, breathing in the smell of her shampoo. "You were gone forever," she complained. "I know, baby. I'm sorry." "Grandma made cookies. I ate 4. 4?
Your stomach's going to explode.
No, it won't. I'm growing. I need extra food.
Marcus laughed. It felt good. Real. His mother appeared on the porch, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Marcus Darnell Thompson. Hey, Mom. You want to explain to me why my phone's been ringing off the hook all day? Why 3 different news stations showed up at my door asking for an interview? It's a long story. I've got time. He set Maya down. Go get your stuff, baby. We're heading home. Maya ran inside. Marcus walked up the porch steps to face his mother.
I saw the video, she said quietly. I saw what that woman did to you. I'm okay, Mom. I know you're okay. That's not the point.
Her eyes were wet.
The point is that I raised you right. Your father raised you right. And today, the whole world got to see it.
She pulled him into a hug. Tight. Fierce. The kind of hug that said everything words couldn't.
He would have been so proud, she whispered. So damn proud.
I know, Mom. Maya burst through the door, backpack slung over one shoulder. I'm ready. Marcus pulled back from his mother, wiped his eyes. Okay, baby girl, let's go home. The drive back to the apartment was quiet. Maya fell asleep in the passenger seat, exhausted from her day of too many cookies and too much excitement. Marcus carried her up the 3 flights of stairs. Her small body was warm against his chest, her breathing slow and even. He laid her in her bed, pulled the covers up to her chin, kissed her forehead.
Love you, Daddy, she murmured, half asleep.
Love you too, baby girl, more than anything. He turned off the light and walked to his own room. The apartment was quiet. The world outside was quiet. For the first time in 2 days, Marcus felt something like peace settle over him. He sat on the edge of his bed and looked at the photograph he kept on his nightstand, the same one that sat on the dashboard of the truck. Him and his father, covered in grease, standing in front of an engine that everyone said couldn't be fixed. I did it, Pop, he whispered. I finished the race. He set the photo down and lay back against his pillow. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The media, the attention, the strange new world of boardrooms and committees. People who would doubt him. People who would test him. People who would try to turn him into something he wasn't. But tonight? Tonight, he was just Marcus Thompson. A father. A son. A man who cleaned floors and fixed what was broken. And that was enough. That had always been enough. He closed his eyes and let sleep take him, dreaming of engines and highways, and the little girl with a gap-toothed smile who believed her daddy could do anything. And maybe, just maybe, she was right. 6 months later, Marcus Thompson still clocked in at 10 p.m. every night. The badge reader beeped the same way it always had. The hallways smelled the same, floor wax and recycled air. The mop handle fit his palms like it had been made for them. But everything else had changed. Mr. Thompson? He looked up. A young woman stood in the doorway of the break room, clutching a folder to her chest. New hire, probably. He'd seen a lot of those lately. The company had been expanding, adding staff at every level. Just Marcus, he said. Right, sorry, Marcus. She shifted nervously. I wanted to thank you for what you did at the benefits review last week.
What did I do?
You voted against the proposal to cut dental coverage for part-time workers. My mom's a part-time receptionist on the 4th floor. She needs those benefits. Marcus leaned his mop against the wall. That wasn't just me. The whole committee agreed it was the wrong move. But you spoke up first. Everyone says you always speak up first. He didn't know how to respond to that. 6 months of committee meetings, board sessions, and policy reviews,
and he still felt like an imposter every time he walked into those rooms. "Your mom's lucky to have you looking out for her," he said finally. "She's lucky you're looking out for all of us." The young woman smiled and walked away. Marcus watched her go, then picked up his mop and got back to work. The routine grounded him. Push, pull, ring, repeat. The same motions he'd been making for 15 years. The same quiet satisfaction of seeing a dirty floor become clean. His phone buzzed. A text from Denise. "Mom's asking if you're coming to Sunday dinner. She says Maya misses her cousins." He typed back, "Tell her yes, bringing dessert." Another buzz. This one from a number he'd saved but rarely used. Victoria Hale. "Culture Committee agenda for Monday. Review when you can. Added your suggestions from last month." He opened the attachment, scanned the bullet points, nodded to himself. 6 months ago, Victoria Hale had been the woman who threw keys at his chest. Now she was something else. Not a friend, exactly, but not an enemy either. Something in between. A work in progress, like everything else. She'd kept her word, stepped back from the spotlight, focused on strategy instead of control. There had been slip-ups, moments when the old Victoria surfaced, sharp and dismissive, but she always caught herself, always apologized, always asked Marcus if she'd crossed a line. He hadn't expected that. Hadn't expected any of this. The hallway stretched ahead of him, long and empty. His reflection slid across the polished floor, a ghost following him through the building. He thought about the photograph on his dashboard, his father's smile, his own childhood grin. "You seeing this, Pop?" he whispered. "Your boy's got a seat at the table now." The building answered with silence, but Marcus could have sworn he felt something, a warmth, a presence brushing against his shoulder like a hand. He finished his shift at 6 a.m., same as always. The sunrise was breaking over the city when he walked to his truck. Orange light spilled across the parking lot, painting everything gold. His phone rang. Maya's school. "Mr. Thompson, this is Principal Henderson." His stomach dropped. "Is Maya okay?" "She's fine, but we'd like you to come in this morning if possible. There's been an incident." "What kind of incident?" "It's better if we discuss it in person." He was at the school in 20 minutes. Principal Henderson's office was small and cluttered, walls covered with children's artwork and motivational posters. Maya sat in a chair by the window, her arms crossed, her face defiant. "Baby girl," Marcus knelt beside her. "What happened?" "Nothing." "Maya?" "I said nothing." Principal Henderson cleared her throat. Maya was involved in an altercation with another student, a boy named Derek Sullivan. An altercation? She pushed him, quite hard from what the teacher described. Marcus looked at his daughter. Her jaw was set, her eyes blazing with something he rarely saw in her. Anger. "Maya, tell me what happened." "He deserved it." "That's not what I asked." Maya's lower lip trembled. The defiance cracked, just a little. "He was making fun of you, Daddy." Marcus went still. "Making fun of me how?" "He saw the video, the one from when you raced that lady, and he said you were just a stupid janitor who got lucky. He said janitors are losers."
He said I was a loser too because my daddy mops floors for a living.
The words hit Marcus like a punch to the chest. "And then what?"
"And then I pushed him. And I told him my daddy is the bravest person in the whole world, and he's not allowed to say anything bad about him, ever."
Marcus didn't know whether to be proud or horrified. Principal Henderson spoke gently.
Mr. Thompson, I want to be clear that we don't tolerate bullying in this school. Derek will also be facing consequences for his comments. But we can't allow physical responses either. Maya needs to understand that.
I understand. Marcus stood. Can I have a minute alone with her?
Of course, take your time. The principal left, closing the door softly behind her. Marcus pulled a chair next to Maya and sat down. For a long moment, neither of them spoke.
Baby girl. I know I shouldn't have pushed him. But Daddy, he was saying such mean things, and everyone was listening, and I got so mad.
I know you did. Are you disappointed in me? Marcus took her hands in his, small fingers wrapped in large ones. I'm not disappointed. I'm proud.
You are?
I'm proud that you stood up for me, that you defended your family, that you didn't let someone tear down the people you love without saying something. Maya's eyes widened.
But Principal Henderson said,
Principal Henderson is right. Pushing isn't the answer. Next time, you use your words. You tell a teacher. You walk away if you have to. But you never, ever let someone make you feel ashamed of who you are or where you come from.
I won't, Daddy.
Promise me.
I promise.
He pulled her into a hug. She buried her face in his shoulder, her small body trembling.
Daddy?
Yeah, baby?
Is it true what they say online? That you could have taken that whole company, but you said no?
Marcus pulled back to look at her.
Where did you hear that? Kids at school? They say you're famous now.
They say there's videos about you everywhere. He'd tried to shield her from it, tried to keep the chaos of the last 6 months away from her innocent world. But kids talked. The internet was everywhere. There was only so much he could protect her from. It's true, he said. I won a race, and the prize was supposed to be a big company, but I didn't want it.
Why not?
Because having a lot of money doesn't make you a good person, and I'd rather be good than rich. Maya considered this with the seriousness of a philosopher.
Is that why you still mop floors? Even though you could do something else?
Partly, but also because there's nothing wrong with mopping floors. Every job matters. Every person matters. And I never want to forget what it feels like to be the person nobody sees.
I see you, Daddy.
Marcus's throat tightened. I know you do, baby girl. That's why you're the best thing that ever happened to me. They walked out of the principal's office together, hand in hand. The hallway was filled with kids rushing to class, teachers calling out instructions, the chaotic energy of a school in motion. A boy stood near the water fountain. Derek Sullivan, Marcus guessed. He had a bruise forming on his arm and a sullen expression on his face. Their eyes met. Marcus didn't say anything, didn't threaten, didn't intimidate. He just looked at the boy with the same steady gaze he'd given Victoria Hale in that parking lot 6 months ago. Derek looked away first. They drove home in comfortable silence. Maya leaned her head against the window, watching the world scroll past.
Daddy?
Yeah?
I want to see Grandpa's truck win the race.
What do you mean?
The video. I've never watched it. Everyone else has, but I haven't. Can we watch it together?
Marcus gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. He'd avoided the video himself, hadn't been able to bring himself to relive that day through a screen. But maybe it was time. Maybe Maya deserved to see it, to understand what her father had done and why. Okay, he said, when we get home. They sat on the couch together, Maya tucked under his arm, his laptop balanced on the coffee table. The video had over 50 million views now. 50 million people had watched the moment that changed everything. Marcus pressed play. The footage was shaky, shot from multiple phones and edited together. It started with Victoria's voice cutting through the parking lot.
Race me. If that antique beats me, you can have my company.
Maya gasped.
She's so mean.
Keep watching. The race unfolded.
The Ferrari shooting forward, the old truck pulling away slowly, the crowd laughing. Then the Ferrari sputtering, dying. The disbelief on Victoria's face. And then, the moment that Marcus had relived 1,000 times in his memory. Him pulling up beside her,
rolling down the window, asking if she needed a ride. Maya's hand found his.
"You helped her," she whispered, "even after she was so mean to you."
Yeah,
"Why?"
because that's who I want to be. That's who Grandpa taught me to be. The video continued. Victoria climbing into the truck, the two of them crossing the finish line together. The crowd going silent, then erupting. And then Marcus's voice, captured by a phone somewhere in the crowd. "I didn't race for your company. I raced because you asked." Maya was crying now, silent tears streaming down her cheeks.
"Daddy,
"Yeah, baby?"
you're my hero."
Marcus couldn't speak, could barely breathe. He just held his daughter tighter and let the video play to the end. The next Monday, Marcus walked into the boardroom for the quarterly review. The faces around the table had become familiar over the past 6 months. Eleanor Parrish at the head, her presence commanding but warm. Victoria Hale near the middle, her posture more relaxed than it used to be. Gerald, still skeptical, but quieter now. A dozen others, all watching Marcus as he took his seat. "Good morning, everyone," Eleanor said. "Before we begin with the regular agenda, I have an announcement." Papers rustled. Phones were silenced. "As you know, our company has undergone significant transformation over the past 2 quarters. Stock prices have recovered. Employee satisfaction scores are at an all-time high. We've been featured in 4 separate business publications as a model for corporate culture change." Murmurs of approval around the table. What you may not know is that much of the success can be traced back to a single decision made 6 months ago. The decision to bring Marcus Thompson into this room. Marcus felt every eye turned toward him. His insights have reshaped how we approach worker relations. His advocacy has prevented 3 separate policy changes that would have hurt our most vulnerable employees. His presence has reminded all of us, myself included, that the measure of a company isn't its stock price, it's how it treats its people. Eleanor stood. "Marcus, I'd like to offer you a permanent position on this board, not as an advisor, as a full voting member, with all the rights and responsibilities that entails." The room went silent. Gerald's mouth opened, then closed. Victoria's face broke into a genuine smile. Others exchanged glances that ranged from surprised to impressed. I don't know what to say," Marcus managed. "Say yes," Victoria said, "before she changes her mind." A ripple of laughter moved through the room. Marcus thought about his father, about Maya, about the long road that had brought him to this moment. "Can I still mop floors?" Eleanor laughed. "If that's what you want, yes. You can still mop floors." "Then I accept." The room erupted in applause. Gerald clapped too, though his expression suggested he was still processing. Victoria's eyes were bright with something that looked like hope. After the meeting, Marcus walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Millions of people going about their lives. Workers and dreamers, and parents just trying to make it through another day. Victoria appeared beside him. "You know," she said, "when I threw those keys at you 6 months ago, I thought I was teaching you a lesson about knowing your place. And now? Now I realize you were teaching me about dignity, about grace, about what real strength looks like." Marcus turned to face her. "You've come a long way, Victoria." "I've had a good teacher." "I'm just a janitor." "No." She shook her head. "You're the man who reminded a billion-dollar company what it means to be human. That's not nothing, Marcus. That's everything." She walked away, leaving him alone with the view. That evening, Marcus picked Maya up from his mother's house. "How was your day, baby girl?"
Good. Grandma taught me how to make cornbread.
Did you eat any?
Maybe.
How much is maybe?
3 pieces?
Marcus laughed. Your stomach's going to explode one of these days.
Worth it.
They drove through the familiar streets, past the ice cream shop and the elementary school, and all the places that made up the landscape of their small, beautiful life.
Daddy?
Yeah?
The kids at school are being nicer to me now, after what happened with Derek.
That's good.
One girl, Sophia, she said her mom saw the video too, and she said her mom cried. She said her mom works 2 jobs and nobody ever stands up for people like her. But you did.
Marcus's hands tightened on the wheel.
Daddy, are you okay?
I'm fine, baby. Just thinking.
About what?
About how lucky I am to have you, to have this life, to have the chance to make things a little bit better for people who work hard and don't get noticed. Maya reached over and put her small hand on his arm.
You make things better just by being you, Daddy.
They pulled into the apartment parking lot. The old truck's engine hummed as it settled into silence. Marcus looked at the photograph on the dashboard. His father's smile, frozen in time. His own childhood face, unaware of all the struggles and triumphs that lay ahead. We made it, Pop, he whispered. Not to the top, but to somewhere that matters. He helped Maya out of the truck, and they walked up the stairs together. The apartment was quiet, peaceful, home. Maya ran to her room to change while Marcus started dinner. The same routine they'd followed for years, the same comfort in the familiar. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Thompson, my name is James Wright. I'm producing a documentary about workplace dignity in America. Your story has inspired millions. Would you consider being interviewed? Another buzz, a different number. Marcus, this is Senator Bradley's office. The senator is interested in discussing potential testimony before the Labor Committee. Another buzz, and another. Marcus set the phone down without responding. There would be time for all of that later. Time for interviews and testimonies, and whatever else the world wanted from him. But right now, there was dinner to make, homework to check, a bedtime story to read. Maya appeared in the doorway, wearing her butterfly pajamas. You're supposed to wait until bedtime for those, Marcus said.
But they're so comfy.
Can't argue with that. She climbed onto her chair at the kitchen table, her legs swinging above the floor.
Daddy?
Yeah, baby?
Do you think Grandpa can see us? From heaven?
Marcus stopped stirring. He turned to look at his daughter. I think so. I think he's watching over us every single day. What do you think he sees? Marcus walked over and knelt beside her chair. He took her hands in his, the same way his father used to take his hands when something important needed to be said. I think he sees a little girl with her whole life ahead of her. A girl who's brave and kind and smarter than anyone gives her credit for. A girl who stands up for the people she loves, even when it's hard. A girl who's going to change the world someday just by being exactly who she is. Maya's eyes filled with tears. And what does he see when he looks at you? Marcus smiled. I think he sees his son, doing his best, making mistakes, getting back up, trying to be a good father the way he was a good father to me. I think he sees someone who finally understood what he was trying to teach all those years in the garage. What was he trying to teach you? Marcus thought about the truck, about the hours spent rebuilding something everyone else had given up on, about the patience, the persistence, the quiet satisfaction of work done right. That it's not about being the fastest, he said. It's about finishing what you start. It's about showing up every day, even when it's hard. It's about treating people with dignity, even when they don't treat you the same way. Is that why you helped that mean lady? Even after she was mean to you? Yeah, baby, that's why. Maya nodded slowly, processing this with the gravity of a child who understands more than adults realize. I want to be like you when I grow up, Daddy. No, baby girl. Marcus cupped her face in his hands. I want you to be better. I want you to take everything I've learned and everything Grandpa taught me, and I want you to build something even more beautiful with it. I will, Daddy. I promise. He kissed her forehead. I know you will. Later that night, after the dinner dishes were washed and the homework was checked and the bedtime story was read, Marcus sat alone in the living room. The apartment was quiet. Maya's soft breathing drifted through the thin walls. He looked at his phone. The messages were still there, still waiting. The world wanted a piece of Marcus Thompson. They wanted his story, his wisdom, his endorsement. But Marcus didn't need any of that. He had a daughter who loved him, a job that mattered, a seat at a table where he could make a difference. He had his father's truck and his father's lessons, and his father's belief that ordinary people could do extraordinary things. He had everything. Marcus turned off his phone and walked to the window. The city stretched before him, lights twinkling against the darkness. Somewhere out there, a janitor was mopping floors. A single parent was working overtime. A child was doing homework in a break room, waiting for a parent who loved them enough to keep going. The world was full of Marcus Thompsons, people who showed up every day, did their jobs, loved their families, and never expected a trophy for it. He'd gotten one anyway. But the trophy wasn't the board seat, or the viral video, or the millions of views. The trophy was Maya's voice saying, "You're my hero." The trophy was his mother's hug saying, "Your father would be proud." The trophy was knowing that when his daughter asked about this time in their lives, he could tell her the truth, that he'd been tested and he hadn't broken, that he'd been offered everything and he'd chosen what mattered. Marcus Thompson was not a millionaire. He was not a celebrity. He was not the story people would tell for years to come. He was a father, a son, a man who cleaned floors and sat in boardrooms and never forgot which one mattered more. And that, in the end, was the only legacy that counted, the only race worth winning, the only finish line that meant anything at all. Marcus closed his eyes and let the silence hold him. Tomorrow, he would clock in at 10 p.m. Tomorrow, he would push a mop down empty hallways and think about his father. Tomorrow, the world would keep spinning, and the emails would keep coming, and the story would keep spreading. But tonight he was home, and home was exactly where he belonged.